Hey, what's up, guys? Ronin Man here. Today I'm going to talk about shame, how women use shame to control men, and basically how you cannot be controlled in this manner. And my techniques are not going to be, like intuitive. Okay, so it's listen, especially at the end, because I'm going to give you a list of things and ways that you cannot allow yourself to be affected as much as other people. That's the best you can do with this one. You can't totally insulate yourself from this one. This is part of a man, and there are parts of you that will be affected if people are using shame against you. But there's a lot of powerful techniques that you can use to insulate yourself and to give yourself kind of perspective or vision on this kind of thing. Women are taught shame as little girls. You know, when you see a girl playing with a doll, right? Like say a Barbie doll, it's quite common to see a girl using shame on the doll. So she'll have the different dolls, and then she'll be talking, and she'll be learning. She's learned from her mother how to use shame to control the dolls, right? Whereas men, you don't see that. Boys are just not. They're not taught that at that young age. Like it's not a manly thing to do. It's not something that's taught to guys. So what is shame? Shame is a very powerful emotion. Okay, it's something that essentially causes a person. Well, I would say there's two personalities, but they also can be in the same person, and many people have both. So one of the aspects of when you're ashamed is that you kind of slump your shoulders and you retreat and you become smaller. That's one aspect of shame. Another aspect of shame is when you get angry, and shame can even send you into a rage because it's such a powerful thing. It is very, very powerful. I'm going to talk about that and the ways that women use shame on men. And like I said at the end, I'm going to talk about how to avoid this stuff, right? So shame can be seen as a blushing face, heads down, eyes averted, wanting to disappear, and even wanting to die. Shame is a really powerful thing, and I think that it can cause sadness, depression, loneliness, and even a man to feel that life is empty, that there is no hope. It's a very dangerous emotion. So men are shamed for a lot of stuff, right? Men are shamed for things often that even women are praised for. So, for example, a stay-at-home dad can be shamed at any moment, for being a stay-at-home dad, right? Whereas a stay-at-home mom is like, wow, she's great, right? She's upholding this and that. She's a great mother and this and that. The double standards are unbelievable for the sexes against men, really unbelievable. But that shame is like a weapon to be used at any time, and often shame is not directly said. It could be a glance, it could be a smile, it could be a smirk, it could be a subtle quip or joke. There's many ways that shame can be used, but when it hits pay dirt, you can see it on a man. It affects a guy. It's not hidden when it affects a guy, and often, like I say, it's like it really causes, I think, most men to go into a retreat. I don't think that shame, although it can trigger rage or anger, but I think that in general, my experience, and I'd like to hear what you guys think, but in my experience, shame is usually a way to kind of decimate a guy. It's basically take him out of the picture. Right? If the guy is doing something they don't want, it's like, no more of this, And shame is something that just, boom, So a guy could be shamed for stuff that he is. So being short, his penis, he could be shamed for having a small penis. I know guys that are shamed for having a large penis because the girl's like, it hurts me, And then, so the guy all excited, he loves her, and he starts having sex, and then it hurts her, and it's like, he feels ashamed. It's almost like everything he touches turns to shit. Like other men make her pleasure, but he hurts her. This is something that's it's extremely painful for a guy. It's like, I can't win, and that's the whole purpose. Shame is a catch-22. So you could be shamed for not providing for the family while you're in school to become a doctor or starting a company. Then you could be shamed of, actually that could be used against you in perpetuity. So anytime in the future they could say, well, I remember when, she was working and you were at home building that business, or you were at home doing nothing, or you were at home getting that dentist qualifications, right, in school. She supported you. And that could be used all the time. Now, a guy could be shamed for holding his emotions in. That's traditionally what guys are, basically there's a rigid masculine role that we're put into. Okay? And shame is the heart of that. It really is. Shame is the heart of that. That's how guys are absolutely controlled. And so they're shamed for showing any weakness, any emotions, not doing certain things, and shamed. And then also, but today it's different because guys can be shamed for letting it out. So guys can be shamed for expressing emotion, for talking about their feelings, for crying. So a guy could be shamed for not crying, or it could be shame for crying. It's really very effective because no matter what a guy does, he can be shamed for it. But what does he feel when he's shamed? Like I said, it really leads to a sense of almost like worthlessness. Like it's like a catch-22 where there's nothing you can do, right? You're just like, and a lot of guys, I really think this is why we have the situation we have today, is such powerful techniques are used on men, and so blithely, just so easily, like, hey, and everybody just accepts it, right? And that these things together are, in the lack of choices that men have, are leading together to a, like, it's like a dead end for guys. There is nowhere to go with this. But there is very much a way to go for anybody listening to this podcast, and I'm going to go with a lot of hope with this one. So first, we're talking about the ways that women shame, different specific things, right? Men are shamed for. So definitely hang on to the end here. So women can be shamed. Men are shamed if a woman has an affair. If a woman cheats on a man, he's shamed. If a man cheats on a woman, he's shamed. So he's shamed whether she cheats on him or he cheats on her. He's shamed. Either way. She's not. If she gets cheated on, nobody, she's still a woman, right? She's still sexual. She's still attractive. It's just that he's stupid, or he's this, or, he doesn't, whatever it is, it's something wrong with him. And he can be shamed for that. And like I said, shame is something that plays over and over in your mind. It's like an echo chamber. It's something you can't get rid of. Guilt is something that you can get rid of. Like, you're guilty, right? You pay the price. You pay, society, you pay your price. You pay the bill. Shame is like, it's this never-ending thing. It's inside you. You are bad. You are no good, right? You are a failure, right? Being a failure is also a big shaming thing for guys, because a woman doesn't ever have to work and she can be a success, right? A man, if he doesn't work, there's no question that guy's a failure, and it doesn't even shameful. Even if he inherits a lot of money, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The guy is not a man. There's so many rules about being a man, not being a man. It's just unbelievable. But of course, if a woman makes more money than him, it's very shameful, and all these kind of traditional things, right? So, like I said, they shame guys. Oh yeah, and here is one of the most effective things that women do. How women control men with shame is that society and movies and music and everything have trained us not to express our emotions. Okay, so even in today's modern world, boys are basically said, be a man, by so many voices in the world. Okay, and so guys hold their emotions in. Guys don't cry when they're fighting. They might feel like crying. They might feel sad. They might feel bad, right? They might hurt, but the guys really try not to show that. At movies, right? How many times have you done that, right? You feel like crying, but you're like, clearing your throat a few times, maybe looking the other way, maybe going to the bathroom, whatever it is that you need to do to kind of not show that emotion, right? You don't want to show that emotion. Why not? It's kind of shameful to show that emotion. So what women will do is they will say, hey, look, I'm your woman. You can tell me everything. So guy will say, slowly start to tell her stuff. But as we know, is that all this stuff now in the future can be used to shame him. So if you have any kind of humiliating sexual fantasies or things that could be seen as humiliating, it doesn't matter. Humiliation depends on how you feel about it, right? Not how society feels about it. It's whatever you enjoy is what you enjoy, right? Some guys they enjoy stuff that other guys would be considered extremely humiliating, but that's what they enjoy, and that's what you should be listening to, right? I said long ago in the podcast is you look down at your dick, and if your dick's getting hard, that means you like something, right? And you should go with that, whatever that is. And I truly believe that. I think that the dick is one of the most honest parts of a man. And if you don't listen to that, if you don't listen to your penis, you're out of your fucking mind. Okay, you are out of your fucking mind, because there is no substitute for the honesty that your penis is telling you. There's nothing that honest in your whole body. Your penis is the most honest thing. And that's why a lot of guys are with women that they don't feel sexually attracted to. They have to take Viagra. They have to take all this. The reason is because their penis is telling them something. There's nothing there. There's no sexual attraction. But they are shamed into it, or legally binding contract, right? There's a couple things that can keep guys in situations, right? So men could tell women a sexual fantasy, right? Let's say a woman has a fantasy about, she tells you a fantasy about, she wants to dress in a top hat and a tuxedo, and then she wants to seduce and humiliate another woman and put a strap on and fuck her and this and that. Okay, that would be seen as a titillating, exciting fantasy. Okay, she's changing roles, right? She's changing from a woman to a man in this fantasy. Now, what if a man says, he wants to dress in a pink tutu and get fucked in the ass, right? That would be extremely shameful, right? So the thing is it's not about the specific fantasy. It's the fact that there is nothing that can shame a woman. Like, the shame is used against guys, basically, mostly, in today's world. There's really nothing a woman could do that's really shameful these days. I mean, she could be in prostitution. She could be, showing any kind of body part. She could say any kind of dirty joke. I mean, she could dress any way she wants. She could be involved in any sexual situation. There's really nothing today that is shameful anymore for women. And I don't know. I mean, there's definitely good in that. I mean, there's shame is weird. Humans are weird. Emotions are weird. Sex is weird. So it's fucking complex, right? But for men, there's still tons of rules. And if a guy is seen as doing one of these shameful things, fuck, man. I don't know how many guys have committed suicide over this kind of stuff, but I think it's pretty fucking big. Guys aren't going to write a suicide note about this kind of stuff. They're just going to get rid of themselves, And we saw that with the recent suicide of the man. The woman shamed him publicly. She was fucking his best friend. They were married, and she was having an affair, which wasn't shameful enough for her. It didn't affect him. She wanted to affect him. The woman wanted to shame him and destroy him. It was very obvious. So who did she choose for one of her sexual affairs? His best friend. This is the most shameful thing, right? His father, his brother, his best friend. These are the things that are the most embarrassing, right? The best man at the wedding. These are very embarrassing. Okay, next, the guy wasn't ashamed yet. He wasn't destroyed. So what did she do? She went on Jerry Springer. And she told the world she was fucking his best friend. That was effective. He was very shamed. And he killed himself. So I think that reaction is pretty common that guys have. Guys are not usually trying to kill people or something. It's usually like the shame just hits them in the heart, and they really, guys have no ability, or there's no capacity to kind of overcome shame. Shame is just all encompassing. Once you feel it as a man, you feel inadequate, you feel dishonorable, you regret, you feel flawed, you feel excluded. There's a sense of loneliness, and women know this, and so they use shame all the time. It's very, very effective, especially for children. That's where they get started, right? So what should you do if you're shamed? If a woman is using shame on you, and no matter how good a woman is, okay, good or bad or whatever, women use shame on men. It's a tool that they just use. How do you stop yourself from letting that control your life? I would say the number one thing is, if you have to feel your body on this one. Like when you have, like, let's say a friend of mine just walked in here, right? When he walked in, I felt kind of better. Like I kind of wanted to get off the podcast. I'm just like, hey, I want to do it. So how you feel about people is something you should listen to. So if I said in one of the oldest episodes, if you see your girlfriend or wife walking towards you and she doesn't smile, or she frowns, or she looks angry when she sees you, like before she has a chance to be socially acceptable, if her first reaction is no good, you pretty much know it's over, or that you should start thinking about getting out, because there's that visceral sense of understanding how you feel about other people is super important. It's super fucking important. So if you feel worse around a woman, it could be shame, it could be a number of things, but you got to pay attention to that. Just feel your body. Go through the day. When you go to certain places, when you meet certain friends, when you see posts on Facebook, look at how you feel. Like literally. And I don't mean like feel like, hey, feelings, it's not. I mean like just gut. Your gut. What's your gut telling you? Right? So if you feel that a woman is shaming you, making you feel smaller, or just complicating your life and making you feel frustrated and angry, you got to think about leaving that woman, because that's one of the most powerful things you can do. Is just in Unblackmailable, I think the best video is the power of walking away, and this is a very, very powerful tool that men need to have ready, be prepared for, and to use. And it's also a tool for like, it's not just a tool for fixing something. It's also a tool for motivation, or let's see, like discipline, right? Because it shows that you're not happy with something, right? The ability to walk away, right? So the next thing would be to know that inside yourself, that you're good enough, right? Now, here's the way I look at this one, is a lot of things in life are very complicated. Okay, so when I was a kid, I remember a couple things I did where I was trying to help my friend, and I was kind of trying to help them, or my brother. I was trying to help them, but I fucked it up, right? So I ended up making a mess out of things. Now, my family, my parents, and my friends, everybody thought that I actually had meant to do something not nice. But actually I did. I meant to help people, actually. So in your private moments, when you talk about shame and stuff, you have to be able to rewrite your life and look at yourself. There's no one listening, okay? When you're looking at yourself, you can write down the stories of your life and remember how you felt and what you really did, because a lot of times you can't explain it to everybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can try to explain it to people, but they won't really understand or believe you, or they don't, you know what I mean? Like, this is your chance to be completely honest. Okay, and I mean for good and bad, because a lot of things you did, you might have done secretly that were trying to hurt somebody, right? And nobody ever knew. that doesn't mean that you weren't trying to hurt them, right? Or it could be like something where your whole family and everybody accepts it, that it was like, it was like you were somehow painted in a bad way or weak or whatever. But when you actually know what you were doing, you were not fucking weak at all. And you know that. And you're the only one who knows that. And there's no one to convince about that. You don't have to convince me. You don't have to convince anybody. And this is the peace that comes with a man in his heart, is that you can just look at things how they really happened and you can just label them. It's like, I didn't try to hurt that girl. Like, I was trying to help her. You know what I mean? I was trying to be nice, and this thing happened. You might have forgotten her birthday. Something might have happened where you were thinking about something else and you were trying to do something and it just didn't work out, and it ended up being this big mess. I know whole families that were torn apart because something was said at a wedding. It's like, you got to know that you didn't mean to do some things you did that ended up not being good, right? Or they were misunderstood by people. And this is your chance to really say, like to yourself, like pat yourself on the back and say, okay, here's the way it really was, right? This is very powerful because there's so many times when we get blamed for stuff, even by friends, not even necessarily by women, but that actually we didn't mean to do. We really didn't mean to do it. Okay, so the next thing you can do is find some kind of brotherhood where you can have guys that can understand this kind of stuff. And I think, for me, the reason why I do the MGTOW World Summits is because I really enjoy meeting the guys, because I think that gives me one more chance to meet somebody who might be like me, who might, have that same mindset as I have, who might have the same way of seeing reality or truth, who might have the same level as honesty with himself as me, who might actually care about other people. You know what I mean? Like there's that chance, right? There's that higher chance because they watched what I shared and then they were interested in that and then they came, right? So that, or they felt that way about the whole group, of men that are out there doing stuff. And then they were, I want to find more guys like that, right? So that's something that the brotherhood is a very powerful thing. Because sometimes a lot of guys just don't understand. And there's no way to make them understand. You can't blame them for not understanding, right? They're just not going to understand. And sometimes you are the same way. If you look back at yourself, let's say you're divorced, back when you're married, if you heard these podcasts, you might have totally disagreed. You might have thought the guys were angry. You might have misunderstood. You might have just not felt the same way. But then you go through some experiences, you get some experience in life, and you realize, okay, here's the way I see it now, right? You need people who kind of have gone through that and see it the same way. Because even for myself, I look back at people, like I said, in my 20s, I was super into PUA. But at the same time, I don't really want to hang out with like hardcore PUA guys now, even though that was a very fundamental, important part of my life that I think made me what I am today. But it was a trend. It was a period of my life. It was not my whole life. And when somebody's in that same mode, although I understand what they're doing, I understand what they need to do. I understand the things they're overcoming, and I can definitely help people with that. But at the same time, I'm not in that mode now. So I like someone who's kind of in my mode, has come to the same realizations, understands life the same way. So that's a brotherhood. You want to look for a brotherhood, even if it's 2 people, 3 people in your whole life. That's huge. That's fucking huge. That will really help you overcome shame. Next thing is be careful what you share with women. Women cannot handle a man's weakness. It's just the fucking way it is, guys. And I mean even good women. I think it's something fucking from evolution. They can't handle it. Women cannot handle a man's weakness. And I think men also have emotional, visceral decisions that they can't control too. I've heard that there's men who, if they watch their wife giving birth and the baby coming out and the blood and all that, there are guys who never want to be with that woman again. Like sexually, they don't have any interest in her after that. Now, I know it's a small share of men, but that is a real thing. You can read about it. And so if I was a woman, I probably wouldn't want the guy to see that, just in case that's his personality, right? It's like he can't really change that. That's a visceral, deep, very fundamental thing that he can't control, And so be careful, because women are just we've evolved differently. Like, we've evolved millions of years since we were animals, and then humans for the last 100,000 years. But then we were, there was Cro-Magnons, there was all these levels. We are complex creatures. Don't put a woman in the position where it's something that logically she knows, but she can't emotionally handle it. And about a man, when you have a weakness, when you have something that makes you, maybe you feel some serious insecurity about the future, share that with yourself, write it, and like I said, find a brotherhood of guys that you can share it with. A woman is a girlfriend or a wife, or just women in general are not your mother, right? Don't think they are. Don't mistake them for your mother, right? There are things about men that women just cannot emotionally deal with, right? And there's probably also similar things that men cannot deal with. So you don't want to put yourself in this position where you're like twisted, like your emotions is one thing, and then your gut, and then your mind is another, because your emotions win every time. That's just the way it is. Emotions always fucking win, right? So I would say go ahead and use any of these tools that you can to protect yourself as best you can, and look for guys who can relate, right? And don't allow, I would say the acceptance of yourself at a deep level is one of the most important things that you can do. It's the deep acceptance of, and it goes kind of to what I was saying about stories, where you're writing down the real story. You're the only one who really knows the catch-22 situations you're in, and also your own deep sexuality and your emotions. You're the only one who really knows that, right? And I think that you have to have some kind of acceptance of that. If you're looking outside yourself for someone to say that you're okay, or it's okay to have that feeling, you're on the wrong track, because that gives that person enormous control of your life. It essentially makes you a Robotron. They now can approve or disapprove of you. And this is shame here. This is not guilt. This is who you are, at the goodness or badness of you, at the very deepest level. Never allow another person to control that. And it's not that you don't want to be controlled. It's that it's not true. It's just not true. You know yourself best, right? Fail-safe mechanism is look inside yourself, because other people, they can know a lot about you. They can be your very good friend, could be your brother, your father, but they don't really know everything about you. You're the only one who knows everything. Even the Brotherhood doesn't know everything about you. So keep that in mind, that the very act of looking outside yourself is your fault. Okay, when you do that, you're handing the keys of your essentially life to somebody else, to a woman. And of course, that's a lot of power to hand to somebody. And it's a very dangerous thing. And like I said, I think that the suicide of men is 8 times what the suicide of women is in modern society. I think a lot of this is due to these fundamental aspects of ourselves where we think we're not okay, or we allow ourselves to be shamed. At that level, we're not good, kind of thing, right? So don't let anybody have that. You have the right to decide this stuff for yourself, inside yourself, right? And by doing that, you can see that you are doing it to yourself. Women aren't doing it to you. You're handing the keys by giving them that master key. You're giving them that. Don't do that. That's not their fault. If you hand it to me, don't, you know what I mean? Like, don't expect me to be perfect either. Don't hand over the master key to your life, right? And that is something like that. And also, I would say at the same final thought is that don't shame yourself, because it doesn't help. Shame does not help. Shame creates feelings of worthlessness, and it actually, shame makes you less likely and less able to make the changes and have the confidence that you need to change your career, to get divorced, to live in a new country, to find new friends, to improve your sense of humor, to win that big game, to hit that ball, right? That anything that you do that shames you makes you less likely. It makes you more emotionally controlled. It makes you weaker, right? So it doesn't help you achieve your goals. It's not real. You are good at the core, as we all are at the core. right? It's not true. All right, guys. Hope that's been helpful, and I hope you guys avoid this catch-22 where I see so many guys who are secretly controlled by shame. Many men are secretly controlled, and you'll feel it in your body. So next time you feel shame, next time you feel this feeling, okay, just remember it. Write it down. Go home. Say, hey, I felt it, and then write it down. Like, what did you feel ashamed of? Who did it? Why did you feel it? It's going to be complex. And this is going to teach you what you need to learn, that you cannot allow this to happen, because it's happening to you right now, no matter what. Every man has this at some level. So it is like getting it out is not very fun, but it's very, very effective if you want to change your life. All right, guys. Ronin Man signing off, and I will see you soon.